Hey record nerds, check out the next level audiophile furniture at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop makes beautiful record furniture. I personally have a Sidetracked Workshop double sidekick in my house, and it's not only gorgeous, but incredibly practical. Check them out for yourself at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Don't keep your records in crates, and don't trust that feeble IKEA furniture. Give your vinyl the respect it deserves with furniture from sidetrackedworkshop.com. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hey everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 492 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And wow, what a weekend. Those of you who follow me on Instagram probably are aware that this last weekend, this Saturday, April 5th, was the Glebe Record Fair. And Glebe is a neighborhood here in Sydney, Australia. And it's the big show. It's the big record show of the Sydney area. There's several other really great record fairs in this area. There's the Newtown Record Fair. There's some up in Newcastle. There's some all the way down in Wollongong. But the Glebe Record Fair is kind of the Yankee Stadium of record collectors here in Sydney. It's pretty massive. About 120 tables. It's twice a year, and it is always a great day. So we had a couple tables. We had some rarities. We got to talk to a lot of record collectors, and of course, I bought a bunch too. Some great records were to be had. I put them up on Instagram if you want to see all the details. But some of the highlights were the Radio Birdman Burn My Eye EP. That's a very difficult one to get. Their very first release. I also got a copy of the Sonic Rendezvous Band City Slang single, which may be one of the best songs ever recorded. I mean, that's of course subjective, but give that song a spin if you haven't heard it yet. It's up on streaming, of course, or you can probably find a YouTube of it. That is such a great song. I could just listen to it over and over, and I finally got an official single of that song. A couple great albums, too. Anyway, it's all up on Instagram if you want to see it. And thanks to everyone in Sydney who swung by the table, said hi, had some fun, grabbed some records, and it was a great day all around. Also, just to let you know, the cat's out of the bag, I will be at the Austin Record Fair in May. I believe it's May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, whatever that weekend is, those 3 days, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tickets have been booked. No turning back. Wife is aware and supportive, which is fantastic. And so I will be there. So if you are in Austin or anywhere near there and want to get there and want to check out some records, well, make sure to show up to the Austin Record Convention and look for me there. And I'll look for you. And I'd love to meet people and listeners in person and say hi and talk records and see what other good loot they have there. I hear that's an absolutely incredible record show, some 450 tables or something. So it's going to take a few days to get through. So today, while we're talking about specific dates in the calendar, April 12th, Saturday, April 12th, 2025 is Record Store Day. And Record Store Day is a pretty exciting time, especially for record dealers and independent record shops. A lot of them make a huge percentage of their annual income on this one weekend. So even if you're not that interested in some of the RSD titles that are coming out, it is still a great weekend to go visit your local record shop and maybe stretch yourself and splurge a bit on some of the records that you've wanted all along. It's a good weekend to do that, and again, sends a great signal to the independent record shops and helps keep their doors open. So make sure to make some time this weekend for that. Today, in commemoration of Record Store Day, I'm going to be talking with Zev Feldman, who you may know as the Jazz Detective. Zev is an incredible dude. He has spent the last several decades hunting down these very rare recordings. Most of them are in the jazz genre, but he does kind of stretch himself outside of that as well. And every Record Store Day, he generally has several really interesting, really cool recordings. This Record Store Day is no exception. There's 6 recordings which Zev is part of and are going to be making their debut on Record Store Day, April 12th. We'll go through each one of those today. And what I really like about what Zev does is these are not reissues. These are not recordings that have been available, and this is kind of a new, version of them or whatever, on blue vinyl or a picture disc. No, these are mostly recordings that have never been heard before. Many of them never even bootlegged. He's just tracked down the tapes somewhere in the world. Sometimes they were recorded by radio stations or different engineers that just happened to be around or had plans to see this show in 1966 or whatever, and brought a recorder and able to capture a concert that would have been lost to time. So the work that Zev and his team does is really, truly incredible. It's very unique, and it's brand new music that is brought to us for Record Store Day. So we talked to Zev about his 2025 Record Store Day debuts today. Oh, and by the way, there's an extended version of this episode only available to patrons of the show, patreon.com/vinyl guide. If you like this show and you want to help support your buddy Nate here, get me a couple burritos each month. That is hugely appreciated. Go up to patreon.com/vinyl guide. Support the show. You get access to extended interviews, high resolution, and commercial free. You also get them early, which can be very handy, especially for the collectible records we talk about. Gives you the jump on some of those records that are about to be on the radar of many thousands of listeners. So patreon.com/vinyl guide is a great place to go. Help support the show, and I'd be forever grateful to you and yours for that support. Alrighty, enough of the jibber jabber. Let's get into our conversation with Zev Feldman on his Record Store Day releases for 2025. Is that Zev Maurice Feldman?
It certainly is, Nate Goyer. How are you?
Some people call you Maurice. Is that
something like that? Yeah, exactly.
Good to see you, Zev. It's do you have to rush on account of me? I know you're real busy these days.
No, I got back, and you know what I'm doing? I'm looking. I have like a little cheat sheet that I put together when I get on calls like this of all the talking points. If I have a brain fart, there's something that I can kind of fall back on. Forgive me.
So, yeah. I know you know how to position your records. You've got about 6 coming out for Record Store Day, something like that, right? Yeah. Now, I want to hear about each one of them, and we'll go through each one of them. You'll read every bullet point on that sheet, make sure we know those details. Before we do, I want to just get your thoughts on the status of lost recordings. Now, Zev, we've had you on the show multiple times. You're the jazz detective. You're calling around the world, flying around, finding these hidden gems. Are they getting harder to find these days?
I want to say this. I just feel such great optimism. I think we have been on a roll. We're continuing to find these gems. And I'm just becoming more surprised and pleased and excited with some of the things that are rising to the surface. It's been a very exciting time. I have some thoughts also that we're in this period right now for so many of us music enthusiasts that, we may have like grown up listening to so many of these studio albums, but having these live documents is kind of like a renaissance in some ways. It feels that way for me of just being a jazz fan, because more than ever, there's like a flow of stuff to listen to. And it's oftentimes from our heroes who sadly in many cases have been gone for a long time. But we get to vet the best of the best, and I think really celebrate the legacy of these artists. It's an exciting time, I think, selfishly for me, but I also know like I'm building these records for us and people like myself, and I think I just speak for a lot of us that it's an exciting time, and it's been amazing. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Oh, we're glad you're a part of it, and in many cases, steering the ship as well. I guess I was just thinking, with so many jazz legends and industry colleagues starting to pass, I mean, these are the people with tapes in their cupboards, and old trunks, things like that. I guess there's a fear from my part that they're starting to leave these excellent gems behind with no known information. But you remain optimistic, which is great. But is that also happening in the background? Is there something? Is it a bit of a race against time at this point?
Well, I think there's always. I think there's no time than the right time, and the right time is now. I mean, listen, like the old song goes. Listen. I think that we're in a period right now where there's a lot of fans of this music that are participating in these releases, supporting them, buying them when they come out. And if anything, it's really grown not for the faint of heart. It's really difficult sometimes getting the resources and rallying together the company's support to get these projects out. I see us as kind of like, breaking down that wall and let's just do it now. I'm not trying to measure anything, but if something comes my way and it makes me excited, you know what? I may have like 20 projects going on at one given time in different stages, and it's all important, and I'm willing to give it the attention that it needs. And I just like I've made this like it feels like my life work, like being the honor of being a part of it. So I'm trying. I'm always kind of racing. There is no promise about tomorrow. It's not, we don't know what's going to happen. So I say, let's just make our best efforts now. And, I think it's one of the reasons too, Nate, that I've been very proactive with the number of companies, because what'll happen is not every record is for every record label for a variety of factors, including the taste of the executives within. And for me, it's like if it doesn't work out somewhere, I have an opportunity of taking it somewhere else. And George Claben at Resonance Records, where I've been working for 16 years now, he gets really the first swing of it, unless if there's an obvious rights holder, like, hey, I got a Horace Silver recording, and he signed the Blue Note, and Blue Note's interested. I go through a sea of different decisions and thoughts that kind of steer the ship with this. But it's the reason why I've been working with so many different companies, because not every recording is made for everyone. And selfishly, I just want to see it come out, and I want to be a part of it. And I want to wave the flag and raise the flag for these artists that excite me. It's really selfish, Nate, what I do, because it's so fan driven, and that's really dictating of where the shiny light is and where I throw my attention. It's what really excites me, because if it doesn't excite me, I'm very fortunate. I'm in this position where a lot of great stuff is coming along. So I've got to be select too. So
you receive a lot of phone calls, from the point of you receiving the phone call to the point of something coming out as a product, like we're going to talk about for Record Store Day.
Sure.
Is it about what, you've got to say no to 20 of them before you find the one that's worthy of seeing the light of day?
Well, I've been lucky because it seems like there's so much great stuff that's been coming along. You asked me in the beginning about the status of discoveries, and I'm very optimistic, because it seems like, luckily for all of us, every day something's coming along where we have to say, that's very interesting. Yeah, I really think that should come out. But yeah, these things are happening, and are happening on the norm. And anyways, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Are you anticipating any changes in that pipeline with the, not to get into politics, but the current changes in funding of government institutions, Voice of America, radio stations? Is that cause for pause in terms of the pipeline of recordings that may end up in the dump?
I don't know exactly. I'd like to think that we're not at a point where an institution would just dump everything. We talk about the Voice of America. Well, just to give you an example, they recorded so many recordings at the Newport Jazz Festival from the late 50s for many, many years. And, some of those are at the Library of Congress and other educational institutions. These things were documented. So I'd like to say that it would be a travesty to think that stuff just gets thrown out. I'm concerned in this moment about tariffs and how that's honestly going to affect manufacturing and a whole variety of other issues, how we all do business. Because frankly, let's be honest, the music business, especially working in the jazz or archival business in general, we're not talking about major tens of thousands of of units going out the door. These are very low quantities that are often made, and it's very slim margins as it is. And I dare say the word philanthropic comes into this too, because these label executives and the folks that I work with, we know how to make some of these projects work. But you can easily hemorrhage, and you'd be really in tough shape if there's leftover inventory. And I hate to get into the nitty-gritty of the business, but all of this dovetails together, and we have to really think about the big picture and what it takes. Because if you have a couple that don't do so well, it can really affect the outcome, including the confidence of these people, these generous individuals that make these projects possible. And I feel very strongly about that.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you guys using US-based pressing plants, or is it around the world?
Well, at Resonance Records, we've been using a company called Levinalist, which is in Canada. They've been doing a phenomenal job for us for a number of years now. Really wonderful audiophile pressings. And our paper goods are done here in the States sometimes. But I'm dealing with situations where we're looking at overseas paper and pressing. And so this is kind of like new territory, kind of feeling this out, especially in the coming days. We're really going to have an idea of how this is going to trickle down and affect a lot of us. But it's really unfortunate. It's causing me a little bit of stress, to be honest with you. I just want everything to be okay. I want to continue on the path that we've been on, bringing out these projects. And a little minor thing, it's not a minor thing, but having something such as a tariff could really throw a wrench in the whole machine, including finance and other things that go into making these projects possible. So I'm optimistic, but we've got to be cautious right now. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Hoping for the best.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in a wait and see moment here. We see the packages that you've created, double, triple record sets, beautiful paper, nice tactile packaging, multi-page booklets, full color, lots of pictures, that sort of thing. So a lot goes into making each of these. So you've got 6 releases coming out for Record Store Day. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm not going to ask you to start with the one that you love the most, because I think that's unfair. They're like your kids. You can't just pick one. So I'm going to ask you to start. What is the one that was most difficult to bring together?
The one that was most difficult to bring together, no question about it, was my Patsy Cline Imagine That, the Lost Recordings release, which is on my Deep Digs imprint, which is through Elemental Music. These are rare and previously unpublished recordings from 1954 to 1963. What made it difficult was the number of rights holders that were involved that we had to work with. And I have to say, working with the Patsy Cline estate and her daughter, Julie Fudge, has been just wonderful, and so meaningful. But we had to work with all these different sources of folks that provided material that we would transfer, make copies of, use. We had a whole number of duet recordings, but the amount of paperwork and contracts that had to be drafted for this one was over the top. It was more than I think that I've experienced before. And there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to get through this? I've produced a lot of records, thankfully, but this one really was challenging. But we got through it.
Okay, so that's interesting because I guess when you do a jazz recording, it's the same 5 or 4 people in the club. And it's the same throughout the whole set. Patsy Cline, there's 52 tracks. And date back into the 50s. So, that's got to be a monumental task. Almost a whole new set of stakeholders for each track, I would imagine.
And having these sources from people. For instance, there's a gentleman named Mark Zeidelman whose family had acetate discs of the earliest known recordings of Patsy, recorded at WARL in Arlington, Virginia in 1954. And a man tucked away here in the Maryland suburbs, right outside Washington, D.C., his family was holding on to this. And, but there were kinescope footage and all sorts of different sources, and we had to make arrangements. The Country Music Hall of Fame, the Grand Ole Opry, some pretty prestigious organizations were involved in bringing this release to see the light of day, and I'm very grateful. It's Nate, this is a really personal project for me too, and a lot of people think of me and associate me with jazz music, but I've been just like a vinyl collector of so many different genres forever, living in record stores. And about 25 years ago, I moved back to Washington, D.C. I'd been living in New York, and there is a record store here that for decades I've been going to, named Joe's Record Paradise. And my friend Joe Lee, who sadly passed away last year, he knew this man named Leon Kegerice, who was profiled on NPR. He was on the Today Show. He was in the New York Times, the LA Times, because he had these collection of country tapes. And he would go out and record on site, and he had this archives. But he was a Bendix TV repairman, and he figured a way how to record audio directly off the television set. Last year, got a phone call from a recording engineer in Frederick, Maryland, named Dylan Utz, and this guy wanted to get his hands on these recordings. They were from the Don Owens television show. This was a man that also managed Patsy, but he had a television show, and Patsy had 8 performances, and we have them on this release, making their debut for the first time. So I got the phone call about them. I wanted to be involved, and I thought it was one of the most meaningful opportunities I would ever have on doing something. Patsy Cline is an icon. She means a lot of things to a lot of people, but she is a timeless, important artist whose music still resonates. It transcends generations and audiences, and we're going to be talking about her for a long time. So her music's going nowhere, and it was a chance of celebrating her. So I'm very happy to play a part of this and have this on my label, Deep Digs.
That's fantastic. Now, Patsy Cline is such a core artist. I mean, I know a lot of people who, when they think of the country music they like, they think of names Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Sr. Well, Patsy Cline is on that Mount Rushmore of country artists, foundational country artists. And the sources were all over the place. They weren't just the possession of one person or one archivist. You had to search around. So this is a multi-year project, it sounds like.
Yeah, and honestly, I have to give full credit to our discographer and my co-producer, George Hewitt, and my co-producer and audio engineer, Dylan Utz. We were really like the three amigos on this, musketeers on this project. And it was just a think tank. Those guys are the Patsy Cline scholars, the academics, the experts. They could tell you every nuance that you needed to know about the music itself and the history behind it. So I had a great team I was collaborating with. My role was really also about putting this together, getting the resources together, and explaining to the up and ups about why we needed to do this project. But I was very happy we found a way of making it work thanks to Elemental Music. And there was just a lot of generosity. And I'm so excited with the way that it's turned out. The booklet and the package is extraordinary. Interviews with Katie Lang and Marty Stewart and Ray Benson, and just a lot of thoughtful curation, including even the labels of a lot of these transcription discs and other sources. It'll give you an idea about what went into this release. But I'm very proud. The jazz detective likes other stuff too. I'm not always jazz all the time. So anywho, yeah.
The one that has been on heavy rotation here in my house, and it's not just me, my wife loves Freddie Hubbard. So this record set, On Fire, it's an incredible show that was captured. And it's surprising. It's just seeing the light of day now. Tell me the story about this recording.
Well, thanks. Well, I love Freddie Hubbard, one of my favorite artists. I've connected with him when I was in my late teens. He was just electrifying. First of all, one of the greatest virtuosic trumpet players in all of jazz history, and electrifying. Like literally, if I was listening to a lot of classic rock before I got into jazz, but the way that Jimmy Page or Jeff Beck or Pete Townsend would connect with me on electric guitar was the way that I felt when I discovered Freddie Hubbard. And these recordings are extremely special. They capture him in peak form. So this is like right after he's made a slew of records for Blue Note, masterpieces, right? And then he's going into the Atlantic Records period, making albums like Echoes of Blue and Backlash. But this was a working band that was practicing all the time. They soar at incredible heights, but the recordings have been tucked away for decades, and they were made by a man named Bernard Drayton. Bernie Drayton is a Renaissance guy. This was a man who was a photographer, was a producer, and he's also one of only a few African-American recording engineers in the jazz field. I think about the great Ray Hall, who ran RCA Studios in New York. I think about Orville O'Brien, who recorded artists like Ornette Coleman and Alice Coltrane and Roy Brooks and countless others, and Bernard Drayton. Mr. Drayton also was a force in the advertising world. In the 70s and 80s, he worked at Young and Rubicam. He was there when the Dr. Pepper, I'm a Pepper, you're a Pepper commercials were done. He was working, bringing jazz and other artists into the advertising world, and he's a really amazing guy. His son is Charlie Drayton, who is the drummer for the Expensive Linos with Keith Richards. Been on the road with Bob Dylan and so many others. And then there's a lot of musical lineage in his family too, including his father and other relatives. But Bernard Drayton made these tapes for WLIB Radio in New York. There was a program director there named Del Shields, and he had him come out to this club that was called the Blue Morocco. It was in the Bronx. It wasn't around for all that long, but the owners of the club are some very noteworthy musical people. I'm talking about Sylvia and Joe Robinson, the folks that owned Sugar Hill Records. And anyways, these records were made, that both the Freddie Hubbard and the Kenny Dorham are made in 1967. All you got to do is listen to Freddie. I mean, I have everything that he's made. I've listened to him. I really worship this guy, man. I just am such a big fan, and it shows him at his very best. And when we were working on this release, Bernard Drayton said to me, man, we should say something about the fierceness of the heat of this playing. So kind of Freddie Hubbard on fire stuck and was born.
Look, Freddie Hubbard is a stunning artist, like you said. And it's interesting you bring up, you were into rock and you start venturing into jazz. To me, Backlash was one of those albums that brought me from rock into appreciating jazz. And Backlash is a perfect album to be that bridge for you. And this is recorded, I think, right around the time he was recording Backlash. A lot of the same tracks are on Live at Blue Morocco that are on Backlash, yeah?
Yep, exactly. And he was, by the way, he had his own gear. He uses a Revox tape recorder and had a mixing console. And man, this sounds really good.
Yeah.
But he's on fire, man. It's Freddie Hubbard at his very, very best. I mean, just at a really important, amazing time in his career. And I know that Freddie I've spoken with Bernard Drayton about this. Freddie had listened to these recordings and just was amazed himself listening to them. And we got a chance to work with Freddie's son, Dwayne Hubbard, too, which was also very nice. And yeah, man, it's a great one.
Now, when Bernie Drayton was recording them, he was recording for, you said, WLIB.
Yeah.
And they would be played once or twice, and then he just held on to the tapes. Is that the story?
Something to that end. Yeah. Yeah. But he's had these recordings for a long time, and he brought the tape and the equipment and everything and recorded it himself. So yeah, he was hanging out at this club back then. And by the way, really a short-lived place. Not a whole lot's really known about the Blue Morocco, but they owned it, and it was around for a quick minute. Seems.
So there's the Freddie Hubbard album. The Kenny Dorham album recorded the same Blue Morocco, Blue Bossa in the Bronx. Tell us a little bit about that recording. Hey there, audiophiles. If you're seeking stylish furniture to showcase your stereo and record collection, well, look no further then sidetrackedworkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop designs extraordinarily elegant record cabinets and consoles that add sophistication and panache to your music hobby. Handcrafted in the good old USA in the vinyl-loving city of Portland, Oregon, Sidetracked Workshop's designs are a music lover's dream. Made with real walnut veneered wood and brass accents, these gorgeous designs add class and taste to the record room and ship fully assembled and ready to enjoy. Just check out the designs for yourself at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Look, you spend thousands of dollars on records. Don't keep them in a crate, and don't risk your records on those feeble wooden pegs from IKEA. Your music deserves the dignity of Sidetracked Workshop. That's sidetrackedworkshop.com. Elegant solutions for the vinyl lifestyle. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VINYLGUIDE10. So there's the Freddie Hubbard album. The Kenny Dorham album recorded the same Blue Morocco, Blue Bossa in the Bronx. Tell us a little bit about that recording. Paul Chambers on bass, as I understand, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Cedar Walton, Dennis Charles on drums, and Sonny Red on saxophone has some avant-garde tendencies a little bit too, which is great. He also made an album a lot of people know on Blue Note as well. This was a working band, which really amazed me. I remember the late, great influence of mine, the legendary Michael Cascuna, told me he actually booked this band to play his high school prom, believe it or not. It was a working band in the New York area, but you know, there's something to be said about that. I have to tell you, like, of all the record store day stuff for this year, if there was something that I've been drooling and going after for a long time, I've known about the Freddie and Kenny Dorham tapes probably for the greater part of 15 years. And we've been talking for so long about it. Having this music come out is very special. But the Kenny Dorham is a rare bird. Look, he passed away around 1972. He was really, when we talk about trumpet players, Nate, and guys whose legacies have matured in incredible ways, you know, Kenny Dorham is really regarded as one of the most important jazz trumpet players, just an iconic guy. And I think about when I was getting into jazz music, definitely his great Blue Note output, albums like Trumpet Toccata and Una Mas and others. And folks know Quiet Kenny, which has been really a celebrated reissue over the years too. He's just an important guy, but this is rare. We don't find Kenny Dorham tapes every day. And this to me was like, oh man, like, I remember like losing sleep over this, like salivating, literally wondering, oh man, I want to get this deal done with Mr. Drayton so we can bring this out. And then speaking with Kenny Dorham's family too was also very nice, working with his children to bring this out. And Kenny Dorham would have celebrated his 100th birthday last year as well too. So all this is kind of happening around a time, but we learned a lot about him, and this great recording made at this club. But man, check out the liner notes. Bob Blumenthal wrote a really terrific essay too, and we even interviewed the late, great, legendary Dan Morgenstern, who was one of the founders of the Institute of Jazz Studies at Rutgers. Well, he worked at Downbeat. He told me, I guess, ready for this? I didn't know this. But Kenny Dorham was a very good writer. He had been actually writing his autobiography, which Downbeat published a chapter of it. But for a period, he was even contributing writing reviews for the magazine. And Dan Morgenstern was just sharing a little bit with us about the great intellect of this man, too. I wish I would have had a chance to see him live or meet him. He is just something of legend. But man, Kenny Dorham, previously unissued, and guess what? We even paid the family. Come on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out. I'm sorry. There's a lot of music that comes out these days. Sometimes a lot of it's even European based. I'm not going to mention labels, but like we go through the necessary steps of finding the musicians and their families and doing it right. But this is a great package. I'm really proud of it. Kenny Durham, unissued. Who would have thought? I'm very happy.
So speaking of jazz history, we've got Mingus in Argentina, the Buenos Aires concerts. This is a 3 LP set. This is across 2 dates. I imagine both dates are pretty well represented on there.
Yes, exactly. 2 concerts here, and these are from June 2nd and 3rd in 1977. This was part of a South American tour. This is with tenor saxophonist Ricky Ford, trumpeter Jack Walrath, pianist Bob Nellums, and the great Danny Richmond on drums, a guy who really had serious history with Mingus going back quite a ways. This was a working band, I think full of a lot of fire, and, especially like Walrath and Ricky Ford were some of the young guns at the time also. And it's just a really solid band. Arguably this is like coming into the 3rd act for Mingus, right? But there's something really musically really great about the band and their incredible solos that are played. And I think it really represents Mingus, and he's soloing on here and he sounds good, but it's a great representation of the band. It's an important period still in Mingus's music, and they're active and they're playing. I'll tell you a little bit about the tapes. They came from a recording engineer in Buenos Aires named Carlos Malero. Now, a few years ago on Resonance Records, we put out recordings of Bill Evans, recorded in 73 in Buenos Aires and in 1979. And it's the same recording engineer. And those tapes were in the same archive. And I felt that we really should go for it and bring out this music, because I know there are a lot of people that are going to enjoy it. It's a great recording. But yeah, it's a 3 LP set. Matt Luthens did the mastering for vinyl for this as well. And, we have a really great package, for instance, with author Brian Priestley, who wrote the biography on Mingus, also Argentinian author Claudio Parisi. But we also interviewed Jack Walrath and Ricky Ford too, and wanted to really tell the story about that chapter. Mm-hmm. So, hey man, it's Mingus. It's great.
It was also recorded, I think, less than a year before he found out he had ALS. Do you know if he was starting to feel the impacts at this point, or is this probably the last spate of shows he had before he started showing any difficulties?
I don't exactly know when diagnosis came in, but you're right. It's kind of like all in this window, but man, he's still touring, they're still gigging, mm-hmm. and there's great energy and even banter on the bandstand. You listen to Mingus, he's very lively as always. He's definitely not subdued. Listen to Fables of Faubus, for instance, which is really cool. And, there's just a lot of great stuff on there. But yeah, you're right. It's really tragic. I wish he would have had a longer life, but even into the 70s, he was making great musical strides and still playing for audiences. But I'm sure this must have been a very thrilling event to have happen in South America. And I think as we learned from the Bill Evans recordings, that this wasn't always an occurrence of American artists coming down there. So when it happened, it was really a special event. And the second concert of the tour, the first tune, the first tune of the second concert, we fade into it, was we lost just a little bit, but it was a really important performance. But that was from a concert that was put together, as we understand it, at the last minute because of the such great demand from the day before. They put the second concert together and they did that. So,
okay. So that second date wasn't even planned. It was just the response from the first date led them to do a second date.
There was an opportunity of doing something, and it was a last minute concert too, which I understood. It wasn't planned. I can't even imagine doing something like that these days. Seems like we always got to give notice to promoting, shows.
Were any of these recordings, Mingus, Dornham, Freddie Hubbard. Any of them bootlegged in the past? Were there unofficial versions of it, dirtier versions of it? Or are these unheard by most collectors?
These have been all unheard, except I would say that the Mingus had circulated, I think briefly. I believe they were also on YouTube. But we got the tapes and we took down those links. You know, we all, I think, listened to a lot of stuff on there, but it is like the Wild West. And there weren't a lot of listens to that. So we were able to secure the copyrights and have those taken down and put it out officially with the estate being paid, which I'm actually very happy about. Talking about the Patsy Cline, there are a couple of performances on there that had circulated amongst collectors, but this was really the opportunity for us to go back to the source material, do new transfers, present the best fidelity possible, and make something special out of it.
All right. Shall we talk about Wes Montgomery and the Wynton Kelly Trio?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Smoking in Seattle. This is your only one record set this year. Is that right?
That is true. And this is a reissue, I want to say. I think we first put this out around 2016. And I want to say we maybe did maybe 2,000 originally. I don't know why we didn't make more. But last year I'm in some record stores in New York and I saw the first issue going for like $100 a copy. And anyways, I'm really happy we're doing a reissue for a fraction of the price. But it's got a new cover. We have a brand new remaster, including working from the tapes directly. Matthew Luthans did a fresh transfer. He was able to, the first issue had an issue with faded out early. There were some people that wrote us about that. This is a new mix and it sounds great. But man, like Wes Montgomery and Wynton Kelly together are one of the great combinations in jazz music. Talk about guys who really knew how to swing, and with Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb on drums. I mean, just wonderful. Actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That's Ron McClure on bass.
Okay.
Who was with Wes very briefly. So, but these are really terrific recordings too, and they're broadcast quality. They were made for King FM originally in 1966. And anyways, it's Wes at his very best in a very amazing period of his career. And they sound good. Mm-hmm. And he's like stretching out all over the place too. And really, and people who love his octaves are going to love this recording as well.
So before we get into, I think the final one, which is the Bill Evans one, I got a question. This may put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
But if you have a time machine and you could go back and see one gig, what would it be?
For Bill Evans or for anybody?
For anybody. Time machine, whatever.
Oh, geez. Boy, that's really tough. It would be great to see Bill Evans with Eddie Gomez and Jack DeJohnette. I don't know. I think about maybe going to, maybe it would have been great to see Freddie Hubbard and Lee Morgan. I'm screwing it all up. I'm sorry. I have it at the Club La Marchal when they did Night of the Cookers. That would be a pretty heavy event to be at. Man, there's so many places about it. Like, selfishly, I just think about the artists that really matter to me. Of course, I think maybe going to see Miles, or maybe going to some legendary performance, maybe seeing Wes Montgomery and John Coltrane with Eric Dolphy, Garrison, and Elvin at Monterey would have been pretty amazing. That'd be a heavy one. What you, man? Which ones do you fantasize about?
I'd like to go see Lee Morgan at Slugs and push him out of the way of the. Give him a warning at least. Actually, Night of the was it Night of the Cooker with Pee Wee Marquette as the MC?
At Birdland.
Birdland, yeah, that'd be amazing. If I had one time machine ticket.
But you know what, man? Slugs all the way. When you look at the guys that played there, all of our favorite cats played there. I'd like to go see the Tony Williams Lifetime at Slugs, but dial me that up, okay? I'd like to go there, or see Sun Ra there, or Art Blakey, or Lee Morgan, or I'd love to go see Larry Young, or I'd love to go see Wayne Shorter and Roy Haynes's group there. I mean, Slugs really was just incredible. I find those posters of the shows and all the people that were playing there, all the cats, man,
Hmm.
all the heavy cats, McCoy and Joe Henderson. I mean, quite amazing.
Do you deal also in like memorabilia, show posters, flyers, that sort of thing?
Well, I don't deal with it, but I've been very fortunate. I've been gifted a lot of stuff
Mhm.
over the years or have bought and collected it. I got my house about 3 years ago and I finally started framing stuff. And I have an enormous collection of Bill Graham Presents. My whole home is like a musical museum with all sorts of posters, things that are signed. I love the Bill Graham Presents posters. I've got a whole wall of Keystone Corner posters from the 1970s, all sorts of ephemera. I don't know if I set out to collect it, but like when you work in this business and you come along stuff, I've amassed a collection though, but I really try to celebrate it, you
Yeah,
know, and this office has got quite a bit
I
of
can
it all
see.
over the place. 30 years worth of memories in this place here. Look, even John Fogerty and
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff. So yeah, man.
very good. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's round it out with Bill Evans. This is how many issues of Bill Evans have you had so far?
I I can't believe it, but this is my 13th production
Huh.
with the Bill Evans estate. I'm really honored and proud of this relationship. I've been working with Evan Evans, Bill's son, since around 2010 when George Claben first introduced me to the tapes that he had made in 1968, and we put out our first release live at Top of the Gate. But yeah, this is my 13th production with them.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Far out. And this is live in Finland.
Yep.
These are various recordings. How many times did he play in Finland in the late '60s?
I, well, between 1964 and 1966 and 1969, I believe. I have to
Hmm.
look that up exactly. And I wanted to say that were for the YLE radio network in Finland. So these are all broadcast quality recordings that were made. I got, the guys at Elemental Music, and I love Resonance, of course, and I work with a bunch of folks, but Elemental Music has been doing a great job really tracking down recordings, especially over on that side of the pond in Europe, befriending a lot of radio networks and also music festivals. And they've been coming up with stuff. They contacted me last year and they said, listen, we found some stuff that's not even in any of the Bill Evans discographies. Even the most of hardcore collectors don't know about these recordings. So Elemental got the tapes and we were able to work from them and bring out these recordings, but they represent three different trios. We have the recordings most earliest with bassist Chuck Israels and drummer Larry Bunker. We also have recordings from Eddie Gomez and Marty Morell. And we also have recordings with bassist Niels Henning Orsted Pedersen and man, Boston's legendary swinging drummer, Alan Dawson. So it's an offering of a few different groups of Bill caught in the 1960s, 64 to 69. And it's great stuff and it's really recorded very well. It's really been a phenomenon watching the response and how many new fans there have been of Bill Evans's music since we've been doing these productions. Record Store Day has been an enormous part of that, I think, in the cross-pollination with younger people and other folks that don't necessarily buy jazz. Look, I think it's no secret that even just looking at one of these releases, we even want them to look great and really cool. And Bill Evans's matters, though. I think that there's a certain quality of his music and his artistry that really excites a lot of people when they discover him. And it's been a lot new people, I think, new fans and generations that have been getting into him. But I feel like very honored to have played a very small part. But the family has been incredibly supportive of these endeavors and also working with the musicians, working with Eddie Gomez and Marty Morell, just as an example. I think we've interviewed them for every package that they're on. And we always look forward to talking. We're going to be speaking soon because there's a new release in the works for next November right now, and we're working on it as we speak. But it's different every time with him. There are a lot of people that love the Grateful Dead and maybe would use the analogy of, a certain repertoire, and every time it gets played, it's different. It's a different musical statement. Solos are different, articulation of different ideas, moods and what the musicians are feeling on the bandstand that night. All those kind of things. I mean, are you picking up what I'm throwing down?
Oh, I know. Look, I'm a Zappa fan. I know exactly what you mean because, yeah, his compositions can be played throughout his entire career with different musicians, different styles, a reggae version of it. He'll whatever strikes the mood. I think Bill Evans in many ways is very similar. He had such a long career. He had many different arcs, many different bands, many different collaborators. So I hear you. Now, you mentioned the Black Friday, I guess, and are you starting to see, from your perspective, record pressing plants becoming much more predictable now?
Well, I think, it's interesting. I think that there is no doubt more open capacity for pressing in lots of different companies across the country. Well, here in North America, and I think around the world. But I think a lot of labels will tell you, I know it's my experience working with Resonance and Elemental. Typically, we work with certain people, and that's who we work with. So a lot's not really going to change unless if things are impacted with tariffs or whatever, like we were discussing. So we'll see about that. But we all kind of work with certain companies. I know Elemental will work with GZ and Memphis. And I know that Resonance often works with Levinalist. But we work with great mastering people too. So it's, but yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really hoping for the best here.
Have you already submitted all the recordings for the RSD Black Friday releases?
No, but I'm getting there. We're ready to do that. We've been working on this for a while. It's going to be a very exciting bang at the end of the year. I think everyone should be very happy. There's going to be some cool stuff coming out.
Okay. Well, we won't get too ahead of ourselves. Let's celebrate these 6 right now. And what I really like about, again, what Zev does, and Zev, always glad to have you on the show and talk about these releases. Record Store Day, it has a lot of reissues, and a lot of people have mixed opinions on that. What you seem to be spearheading are new releases, new music, things that haven't been out there, which I think is incredibly difficult these days. But you've got a very serious eye to quality. So most things you have your fingerprints across are things that I would certainly be interested in. So that's why I encourage people on Record Store Day, run in there, grab this Freddie Hubbard, grab the Kenny Dorham, grab the Patsy Cline, grab all these records. Of course, you'll probably get the Mingus and the Bill Evans and the Wes Montgomery along with it, because these are beautiful packages. They sound great. I've seen them. Beautiful booklets, full color, lots of content, lots of things to read. Beautiful packaging. And again, Zev, you continue to raise the bar in terms of reissues, jazz and otherwise. So thanks again, and we look forward to hearing what you got in your bag of tricks for next Record Store Day.
Well, thanks for all the support, and thanks to all your listeners, too. I just want to say they can't do it without them. We're really all in this together, and we're all music fans, and it's just very exciting. I feel really pleased. And if anybody wants to follow me out there on socials, I'm on Instagram at feldman.zev, and I'm also on Facebook. And I always love to hear from people, and I just hey, I can't do it without all of you. So thanks a lot, Nate. You especially, my friend.
All good, mate. All right, there he is, Mr. Zev Feldman. Always love having him on the show. He's always fun to talk to. And again, April 12th, Record Store Day. Look not only for Zev's releases, the ones we talked about today, but a lot of others, and any used stuff there. These independent record stores really need our love today, more than just about any other time. There's not a lot of confidence in the market these days, especially for independent record shops. So if you have the ability, help them out with a few more bucks and take something nice home for yourself while you help support the independent record shops. We all benefit when that happens. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, appreciate everyone who's leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the other platforms. That's hugely appreciated. And those of you who are helping support us through patreon.com/Vinyl Guide, that's a huge help as well. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.